playing a poker game, and we've got two players. The first player is the United States. The second player is DJI. And it's amazing how there's no other player at the table. I don't see any other Chinese company really being focused on or targeted in this way. And why is that? You know, we've got Autel, we've got all of them. It's stipulated, and it's sort of, so to speak, like Autel, let's just put them in the group too. But the main primary concern here is DJI. And that bothers me because I have no idea why it is that only one Chinese manufacturer is being targeted. So let's go back to the poker game. We've got two players at the table, not three, not four, two, the US and DJI. So here's the thing. DJI, the hand that, let's start with the US first. The US has a hand. They've been dealt some cards. And guess who's dealing those cards? The US government. The US government is the dealer. And the first player, which is the United States, well, their cards are not so great. They're looking at the hand and they say, okay, we're not technologically advanced. We don't have great drones. Our prices are way too high for the drones. We don't have dominance in the market for drones. And so we're really looking at a weak hand here. What do we do to even the odds? Let's go ahead and look at DJI's hand now. DJI, on the other hand, they have some great cards. They've got some unbelievable technology in their drones. They're dominant. They're 90% of the world dominance. 50 to 70% of the United States dominance drones. All of the farmers, everybody's using these drones. And the economy basically is relying on DJI, so that way we can do what we need to do here in the United States, commercially, recreationally, agriculturally. We're all relying on DJI, and there is this one player who's sitting at the table opposite of DJI, which is the United States, that's saying, we know you have some good hands. We know you have a good deck of cards, but we don't want you to win. So what is the strategy here for a classic poker game? What would be the strategy? Well, of course, the strategy would be to play the game in a way where the other player will get disqualified. Pretend as though we took DJI's deck of cards and we slipped a malicious bad card in the deck so that DJI would be dealt that card. And then security comes around and they say, hey, I need to see your cards. They look at the United States. Yeah, you don't have a really good hand. I just want to check. Your hand's not really that good, but we're gonna keep you there. DJI, we'd like to see your hand now. DJI shows their deck of cards and say, you got a foul card in the deck, DJI. How did you happen to get that? That's not good. We're gonna disqualify you from the game. So DJI doesn't win by fair and square rules. They win by disqualification. Now, there's something wrong with this picture. And I'm trying to put this whole thing together in my head as to, is this really about a national security threat? Or is this about something else? It's not about any labor, cheap labor. It's not about a national security threat. It's not about whatever else that they were talking about. They probably made up so many other things. But you know, I always look at this and I say to myself, who are the people who are really concerned about this? And who are the people who are concerned about this in regard to legislature, government? And you know what's so crazy? No one is saying anything about that issue, and no one's even talking about it. Why is that? This is a really good point, and it really bothers me because, you know, there are people in this world who want the answers. We want to know what's going on, obviously. And I don't get it, because if this was such a national security threat, then why are we still able to buy these drones? And not just buy them, you can buy them in abundance. I can order 10 DJI Mavic 4 Pros right now, take $40,000 out of my bank, and I can pay for them and get them all right here and put them up in the air. And we're talking about national security, where information is being sent back to DJI, and then DJI is somehow sifting this to the Chinese government. Well, if that were the case, why would DJI in the first place put geofencing on their drones so that way they couldn't fly? We couldn't even fly drones near a police station. You couldn't fly it near an airport. You couldn't fly it near a government facility. Geofencing. You couldn't fly it anywhere. It was a nightmare. And you had to go through this whole rigmarole to try to get the stupid drone to fly in a certain area. Even if you had authorization, you couldn't fly in there, and it was a nightmare. Now, look, DJI, you know what they did? After this whole pressure thing started happening, they removed the geofencing from all of the drones. Now you can fly the drone anywhere. You know what that's kind of like? That's kind of like a finger, and it says, you don't want to play by our rules. You don't want to give us a fair shot. You don't want us to win, to have a fair shot at this game. Then what we're going to do is we're going to remove all of the geofencing. That's what they did. And I think DJI just basically gave them a bird. But here's the thing. If they were so interested in getting information from all of these places, national security, this and that, why would they put geofencing on these drones in the first place? It's unbelievable that I can just sit here and try to think about this in my head, and the only thing that I can see in my head is a poker game. And the only one that is going to win this poker game is the person who is being dealt the cards from the dealer who is working for one side or the other. And I already know this poker game does not have a dealer who's affiliated with DJI. This poker game has a dealer who is associated with the US government. And I had to look at it at this perspective because that's the only way I can make sense of this, by thinking of this whole thing as an old-fashioned classic poker game. And that's exactly what it is. Call the bluff and say, hey, listen, we know that we have a concern. And you know what's so crazy about this is that December 23rd is the date when they're supposed to have the deadline, where they're supposed to have this thing done. They're supposed to have this thing, the security briefing or whatever this is. It's supposed to be done by then. And nobody knows who's going out there. Nobody knows who's going to be doing it. There hasn't been anybody assigned. DJI has been begging for this thing. They've been saying, hey, listen, we'll have other contractors come in and we'll do security. We'll do everything in our power that we need to do to make sure that you know that we're being honest. And DJI is doing all of this, and there's nobody that's interested in DJI. And you want to know why that is? Oh, wait a minute. There's one that's interested in DJI. I know who's interested in DJI. Skydio. You know why Skydio is got their ears so perked up on this whole thing? It's because if DJI is out of the picture, that means that Skydio is going to be the dominant force in the United States. That's what it means. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's about boosting this economy. And if I were interested in only boosting the economy of the United States, getting back the deficit, getting us back to the era where we have a great economy again, why would I want DJI to have 50 to 70% domination on a market that is worth billions? 5, 6, 7, 10 billions. And who knows what this drone market is going to be in the near future. I predict that this drone market is going to go way, way over what anyone ever expected, because everything that has to do with drones now and AI is falling into a certain area where the future is being unfolded by the use of drones and AI. Now, you know, I really think that it would be a bad move for anyone in any position to say, hey, I don't want a piece of that pie. I don't want a piece of that $10 billion or $50 billion or $500 billion market. That would be a bad move. So I would do everything in my power to disqualify the dominant force, to get them out of here, so that way I can get a piece of that pie and restore what it is that I think should be restored in regard to the US economy. But here's the thing, you're not restoring a thing. You're shooting yourself in your own foot, because every single thing that you can think of, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a pair of glasses. It could be an iPhone. It could be some batteries. It could be bottled water. Listen, I don't know. Well, maybe not bottled water, but every single thing that you can think of has made in China on it. Why aren't we getting everything else out of here also? And you know why? You know why we're not doing that? It's because if we decided to get everything that is made in China out of this country would go bankrupt. We'd be broke. We'd be in a recession. And there's absolutely no way we'd recover. The only reason why people can stay in businesses, why businesses can stay in businesses, why corporate buildings are up and running, why it is that we can erect houses, and why it is that is because we have cheaper labor and we have cheaper parts. Because the United States, the parts that we manufacture here would be way too expensive for us to even build a drone that's under $1,000. It's never going to happen. Look, compare this to cars. Look at cars. How many cars do we have here that are domestic cars? And what is the ratio of those domestic cars in comparison to the foreign cars that we have here? I'm looking around a parking lot right now. I'm parked here. I got to the store. And I'm parked here. I'm looking at all these cars in the parking lot. Let me see if I can count there. You know, I should turn this whole camera around so you can see all the cars, but don't worry, just take my word for it. Let me see here. Toyota, Honda, Nissan, Hyundai, Toyota, Nissan. Whoa, there's a Chevrolet. There's one, okay? If I'm looking all around here, I can see nothing but foreign cars. Oh, look. You can probably see that out the window. There's a Chevy truck. There's an old-timey Chevy truck that's over in the parking lot there, just sitting there, and it's priceless. But most of the cars here that I see all over are foreign-made cars. Do you know what would happen if we did the same exact thing to try to get this dominance, or this political dominance, or this economic dominance, whatever you want to call it? Do you know what it would be like to get rid of all of these foreign cars in this parking lot and only have domestic cars here? First of all, half of them wouldn't even be running, because the way that we manufacture cars, the cost that it takes to put these cars together, it would cost almost 3 times as much to get a quality made car here in the United States as it would if we just got a foreign car in China that probably lasts twice as long as an American made car anyway. And you know what? And they don't rust. Listen, this is all I have to say about this whole thing. I'm going to sum this whole thing up in a nutshell. This whole thing is a poker game. And it has absolutely nothing to do with national security. It has absolutely nothing to do with all the cheap labor in China and all the poor people in China being abused. No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. What this has to do with is making sure that the cards that are being dealt are dealt in our favor. So that way, even if the opponent or the other player has superior cards, superior technology, superior drones, superior dominance, superior market share, that even if all of that exists, that there's no way that they can possibly win, because the dealer is on our side, and he's going to make sure, or she's going to make sure, that the other player is disqualified. That's all I have to say about this topic. I'm going to have another video on this whole thing because this is a big issue. It's becoming a big issue. Listen, get somebody out there to check DJI out to make sure that they're okay. It's definitely not a national security threat, because if it was, you wouldn't allow me to have 3 drones flying in here in 3 days, and you wouldn't allow everybody else to be ordering drones, because they're DJI drones also. They're going to have, we can fly the drones anywhere we want. You're going to make the situation much worse by trying to ban DJI, because that's only going to mean that everybody's going to try to get them even more. And we will get them, because you can't ban the whole world. That's all I have to say. I'm out.